Ondaloro, okumwamwana, no nonsense. Another bigini man, Satana Zapo man, Tate Wajopabi man, Chipanga Zapo man, yeah. Paifo Chasi man, Badaro Gucci man, Ondazamo Mobafana, Shino Shiri no Patana, Tate Puti no Guanguana, Omoye Tacho Fukarate. Natina Geramo when you want to get the Batacana. Oh, my one.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we please, as we are able, rise for the arrival of the Right Honourable Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia? Could we please kindly remain standing for the singing of the national and the AU anthems?
Our freedom.
I'd like to plead to you, could we please have a very short moment of silence in remembrance of a seasoned educator, our recently departed president. Thank you very much. You may please be seated. Right Honorable Dr. Sarah Kuungelwa Amadila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Dr. Ita Kanji Murangi, Minister of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Mr. Joseph Mukendwa, Head Policy Planning and Strategy, Green Hydrogen, Mr. Philemon Wise Emmanuel, Company Secretary, Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund, Professor Kenneth Matengu, Vice Chancellor at the University of Namibia, Professor Anisha Peters, Chief Executive Officer, National Commission of Research, Science and Technology, Madam Miriam Dikwa, Acting Vice Chancellor at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, Madam Nilian Mulemi, Chief Executive Officer, Petroleum Training and Education Fund, Petro Fund, Madam Bertha Makali, Board Member of the Namibia Press Agency, Mr. Linus Chata, Chief Executive Officer at the Namibia Press Agency, team members of the Namibia Press Agency, distinguished members of the media, captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and a warm welcome to this high-level tertiary education funding budget review dinner hosted by the Namibia Press Agency. My name is Denver Kisting and it gives me such great pleasure. It is such an immense honor and it's such a huge delight, Right Honourable Prime Minister, to be directing the proceedings at this critically important platform this evening. I think it is a fact that Namibia remains committed to her people and their social well-being in general, and education in particular. What is also a fact is that there's increased pressure on the fiscus. The proof of the pudding lies in the eating, the empirical evidence that exists, notwithstanding the increased pressure on the fiscus. Government continues to avail resources to the education sector. However, we also have to ask ourselves, how are we faring in terms of the ultimate goal to emancipate our people economically? And what role is it that tertiary institutions continue to play to help us accomplish that ultimate goal? And if we are able to guarantee and warrant, corroborate the connection, we need to be serious about the manner in which we are able to finance those institutions. It's also true that tertiary institutions need to be innovative. We need to rethink and reimagine the manners in which we finance our institutions. Our financing models need to be rethought. And that is not only an individual entity responsibility, but it certainly is a responsibility, an onus that vests in all of us collectively. I'm super excited about not only the wealth of expertise in this room. Our commitment cannot only be to workshop our problems, but we have to dedicate ourselves relentlessly to workshopping possible solutions. This is our country, and we're driving her in the right direction collectively. Without any further ado, to ensure that all of us feel properly at home and welcome, I'd like us to please put our hands together for Madam Bertha Makali, Board Member of the Namibia Press Agency. Let's please give her a big round of applause. Certainly, ladies and gentlemen, that does not constitute a big round of applause. We may have had a long Thursday. but we're here for a very important national discourse platform, and we will honor it accordingly. Let's please give Madam Mamakali a better round of applause.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Dr. Sarah Kuwangelwa Amadila, Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, Dr. Ida Kanji Murangi, Honorable Modestus Amutse, Deputy Minister of MICT, Green Hydrogen Commission, representative if they are here, University of Namibia Vice Chancellor, Prof. Kenneth Matengu, Prof. Anicia Peters, CEO of NCRCT, NAS Acting Vice Chancellor, Ms. Marianne Dikwa, if she's here, Petroleum Training and Education Fund, Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Nilian Mulemi, NSFAF Acting CEO, Mr. Wise Emmanuel, stakeholders in the education and mining sectors, as well as captain of industry, our host, the Namibian Press Agency leaders and staff, members of the media, Director of Ceremonies, all protocol observes. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome, Namibian welcome to each of you as we gathered here for this budget review dinner session. It is an honor to have you all present tonight at this Nampa Pavilion, as you not only representing various fates of your organizations, but also representing the future and the country at large. Your participation is valuable as we delve into the financial aspects that shape our future endeavors. As a board member of NAMPA, I express my heartfelt gratitude to each member, stakeholder, and contributors who are here tonight. Your dedication and commitment to the country's development, where research, innovation, training, particularly within the immense sectors of oil and gas, green hydrogen, and the technological congregation is instrumental in our country's progress. Tonight, we embarked on a crucial discussion, a review of our financial preparedness and strategic priorities. Our collective efforts will guide us towards sustainable growth and impactful outcomes. Besides the presentations, let us all engage in constructive dialogue, share insights, and chart the course that in light with our Harambee mantra of no one must be left out. NAMPA has completed its strategic plan, and in it is our preparedness to be a reliable information and content partner in this world of multimedia, artificial intelligence, and the new emerging sectors. For all of you gathered here, our team will be calling on your doors sooner on what we can do for you with our diverse capabilities, among them, number one, distributing our content to over 500 digital media platforms and 88 newspapers in more than 70 countries in regions and worldwide. We also provide provision of superior, accurate, quality news to over 18 radio stations across Namibia. For us, this evening is also one of those content hubs where all the information being shared here will be distributed across the world. Therefore, Honorable Prime Minister, may this evening be marked with collaboration, innovation, and shared vision. In conclusion, I encourage you all to actively participate, ask questions, and contribute to your perspectives. Together, we can ensure that our resources are optimally utilized to serve our mission and people we represent. Once again, welcome to this budget review dinner session. Let us commence our deliberation with enthusiasm and purpose. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Was it really a blue Thursday? What's going on with us? Has it been a long day? Let's please give her another round of applause. Thank you so much, Madam Amakali. I think what needs to be said, without any further ado, for the Namibia Press Agency to have assembled the cream of the crop in terms of captains of industry in this country at this moment on this gift of a Thursday, the 8th, not the 8th yet, the 7th day of March 2024, certainly deserves a massive round of applause. Madam Amakali also reminded me that I didn't give due acknowledgement of our Deputy Minister of Information and Communication Technology, Honorable Modestus Amutse. Thank you very much for your presence, sir. Thank you very much for your commitment. We are excited about your presence. What is it that we're talking about in terms of green hydrogen? We still get Namibians in March 2024 wanting to know what on earth is that. At the same time, we're having a conversation about oil and gas. The conversation that we will be focusing on this evening, if we're talking about the importance of tertiary education in this country, if we have due regard to how funding plays a role in us accomplishing our ultimate objectives, to what extent will we explore the role that these emerging industries could play in helping us deal with our financing challenges? To help us understand what transpired in the National Assembly last week, when the Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises, Honorable Ipumbushimi, tabled the 2024-2025 budget, we'd like to invite to the podium, in as far as it relates to our conversation this evening, and as far as it relates to the sector that we will be discussing, I would like to invite you to please put your hands together for the Minister of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, that is Honorable Itsakanji Murangi.
Thank you, Director of Proceedings. Right Honorable Prime Minister of our Republic, Dr. Sarah Kungongelwa Amadila, Honorable Modestus Amuse, Deputy Minister of Information and Communication and Technology, the University of Namibia Vice Chancellor Professor Matengu, National Commission on Research, Science and Technology and Innovation CEO, Professor Anisha Peters, NAST Acting Vice Chancellor, Ms. Miriam Dikua, the Green Hydrogen Commission representative, Mr. Mukendwa, Petroleum Training and Education Fund Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Nilian Murlemi, NASFAF Acting CEO, Mr. Weiss Emmanuel, leaders and stakeholders in the education and mining sectors, as well as captains of industry, youth and student leaders present, our host, the Namibia Press Agency leadership and staff, all protocol observed. It is indeed a distinct honor to be engaging stakeholders from tertiary education as well as from the emerging sectors here tonight, where I will provide a high-level overview of the tertiary education sector strategies and developments in the context of the fourth and fifth industrial revolution, as well as the emerging sectors of our economy. I think from that introductory paragraph, key thing you probably will wait long for me to get to the financials. Our ministry, after its creation in 2015, partnered with UNESCO to conduct a study on the status of the functional areas for the provision of quality and responsive professional and technical human resources through higher education and TVET programs, as well as to develop the research, science, technology, and innovation capacity for Namibia. This study assessed the macroeconomic environment of the labor market in Namibia. A report titled TVET Higher Education and Innovation Policy Review Namibia was published with key recommendations in all these areas. These recommendations guided the ministry in the development of various interventions. Over the years, Namibia has taken the lead in the fourth industrial revolution, which builds on the interventions of the third industrial revolution or the digital revolution, in which more automotive systems were introduced to the production line from the 1950s to the early 2000s. Industry 4.0 has enabled breakthroughs that were previously unthinkable. Through the TVET Higher Education and Innovation Policy Review, we have ensured that the technology we adopt today enhances our ability to meet the needs of tomorrow. The establishment of the Presidential Task Force on the Fourth Industrial Revolution in 2021 by our late President, Dr. Hage Geingob, may his soul rest in peace, created an impetus for targeted assessment of our country and our higher education institutions' readiness in this space. And that is the space of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The work of the task force further led to academic programs audit, as well as academic programs consolidation, expansion, and alignment. The interaction of cyber-physical systems in Industry 4.0 brings about smart manufacturing, in which men and machines reconcile and find the way to work together to improve the means and efficiency of production. These innovative technologies have the potential to revolutionize the energy sector by increasing productivity, enhancing safety, and cutting carbon dioxide emissions. Today, the world's largest intelligent oil fields are outfitted with digital twin technology and industrial Internet of Things sensors, allowing for remote operation using real 3D virtual reality software. These websites make use of smart sensors, machine learning, big data analytics, and a mechanism for predicting remaining useful life. Unmanned aerial vehicles and industrial robotics carry out inspection tasks, enhancing the effectiveness and capabilities of diagnosis. For the energy sector, this includes not only the fourth industrial revolution technologies that improve efficiencies and operational capacities, but also innovations that help reduce emissions and making energy networks more sustainable. It is therefore imperative that our universities and other tertiary institutions brace themselves to revolutionize their teaching approaches through the adoption of new technologies to produce relevant skills and knowledge for the emerging fields such as oil and gas, as well as their inherent value chains. The Youth for Green Hydrogen Scholarship Program is one collaborative effort between the governments of Namibia and Germany that is aimed at accelerating education and training of the Namibian human capital in the field of green hydrogen and other related fields. There are also other national initiatives within government to develop other programs targeting human resources development in emerging fields or in other emerging fields in the future. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Director of Proceedings, it is common knowledge that today's generation of young people is the largest in history. Over 3 billion people of the world, almost half of the world population, are under the age of 25. Important to note also is that 90% of all young people live in developing countries. This startling reality is also evident in our country, where the youth constitute 60% of our population. It is for this reason that special attention has to be paid to engaging and implementing requisite, or rather imparting requisite skills and knowledge to our youth. In fact, they are the future leaders in a globalized and interconnected world. In modern development theories, we are told that innovative human capital is our competitive leverage. The youth are our valuable assets, and they are trustees of our posterity. They are, like everyone else, custodians of sustainable development, a role for which they should and must be adequately prepared. It was therefore the conviction of His Excellency, the late President Dr. Hage Geingob, that access to skills development should be broadened through ensuring a presence of TVET centers in all our administrative regions of our country. In response to this clarion call, the ministry, through the Namibia Training Authority, expanded existing TVET centers and also constructed new TVET centers where they did not exist. With the kind assistance from our development partners, such as Germany, China, and Japan, as well as the TVET levy, new TVET centers have been built in the following regions: Kunene, Karas, and Kavango West. While extensive expansions were done at other TVET centers, like the one in Hobabis, Ketmans, Mariental, Enana, and many others. In addition, the ministry reviewed the TVET policy, and the emphasis has since been now on the following: instructor education, strengthening of research in TVET, better aligning skills or trades offering with the needs of industry. In this regard, a fully fledged TVET faculty was established at the Namibia University of Science and Technology, NUST, to further develop skills and train capacity of, or train instructors and upskill them. Considering the increasing youth unemployment, the ministry, in collaboration with higher education institutions and the NTA, has reviewed the industry skills committees and developed a new work-integrated learning framework policy as well as strategy aimed at strengthening collaboration between industry and tertiary institutions. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Director of Proceedings, I would like to turn to the developments in the higher education subsector. In the last few years, access to higher education and the diversity of program offerings at our universities have expanded significantly. The total student enrollment number in higher education has increased from 40,000 to 72,000 in the last few years. Due to this increase in student numbers, it is imperative to increase the provision of state-of-the-art infrastructure and facilities. And it is important also to note here that as government, we have taken a position that higher education as well as training must and should be expanded to the rural masses. The University of Namibia has thus constructed the UNAM Southern Campus, which focuses on geosciences training. Other infrastructure developments within UNAM include the building of student hostel facilities at José dos Santos campus. In addition, the UNAM School of Medicine at the Hagegeingob campus completed its third phase construction that included the introduction of new but costly programs in the medical fields. And these are dentistry, pharmacy, applied health sciences, occupational health, physiotherapy, and radiology. UNAM has also introduced the School of Veterinary Medicine and has constructed the Veterinary Academic Hospital. It is pleasing to note that the hospital and the dentistry facilities are now providing services to local communities. Some of the developments currently at NUST, the Namibia University of Science and Technology, are the desalination plant and agricultural production that covers water, food nexus, development and application of open sources, H2 nexus systems planning tool, development and application of digital technologies for this system, business models, oil and gas exploration, production and exploration rollout strategies, and framework conditions and education awareness as well as training. In the space of research and innovation, UNAM and NUST have ventured into the development of prototypes from indigenous plants and fruits with a view to commercializing these products. The higher education sector has finalized the National Human Resource Development Strategy, which will guide institutions of higher learning in terms of education and training focal areas. Another strategic policy intervention is the development of minimum standards for all higher education institutions. This will assist government in differentiating between the types of higher education offerings and qualifications. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Director of Proceedings, allow me to turn to the allocation of resources to the higher education and TVET sectors. The ministry is cognizant of the fact that Namibia has gone through a challenging period characterized by droughts, floods, economic downturn, and COVID-19 pandemic. This has negatively impacted many Namibians to support their children to enroll at higher education institutions. This also has put pressure on NSFAF, the Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund. In 2022, the number of students receiving financial assistance from NSFAF stood at approximately 15,000 at a cost of 1.6 billion. While in 2023, the number grew exponentially to 22,000 at a cost of 2.1 billion. The current budget allocation to NSFAF is at 2.3 billion. This represents an increase of 200 million. It should therefore be noted that with the revised basic education curriculum, the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture has already indicated that there were over 40,000 NSSCO part-time learners and over 35,000 NSSCO full-time learners, while the NSSCAS learners full-time were only 8,138. Based on these figures, the higher education and tertiary sector or streams will have to prepare themselves for a substantial increase in learners seeking access to tertiary education this year. In response to the exponential growth of learners exiting senior secondary schools, the higher education and training sector has agreed to introduce bridging programs and expanding their admissions in some of their programs. In addition, the newly constructed TVET centers, once operationalized, will further absorb more learners. These new interventions require additional investments in the higher education sector. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Director of Proceedings, as I move towards concluding, I wish to reiterate that these sectorial commitments, which include the development of professional and technical human resources, research, science, technology, and innovation, are the cornerstones for the transformation of the Namibian economy. Without significant investments in this sector, the ability to meet our development targets will not be realized. With these few remarks, I congratulate NAMPA for an excellent initiative and wish you all successful debates. Let us have more of these engagements and I look forward to your different presentations. Thank you.
Kindly give the Honourable Minister a proper round of applause, please. How many team members of NSFAF are in the House? When the Honourable Minister announced the significant increase, I didn't hear a roaring applause. NSFAF, where are you? Let's give them a round of applause. Maybe they're shy right now. Honourable Minister, thank you so much for that very important message. The technology that we adopt today certainly impacts our capacity to embrace the future. One thing that I appreciate about you that's super consistent is your emphasis on TVET. If we do not realize, if we are unable to do the maths about the role that TVET should play and will play to transform the economy, we are in trouble. So if you need to invest in an appointment with the Minister of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, for her to help you understand what the connection, the correlation is, please take that appointment up and prioritize it very seriously. It's also important to understand, and I think that message hits home too, if you teach at a tertiary institution, it cannot be business as usual. You need to revolutionize your approach. You need to ensure that what it is that you're teaching, what it is that we're producing, certainly can absorb what the market needs. And we know what the market needs. The market needs people who are equipped for the emerging industries, who are equipped not only for the fourth industrial revolution. Professor Peters will tell us, what are you talking about? The fifth industrial revolution is already here. We will continue to lag behind. But also the emphasis on infrastructure development. If we do not prioritize that, we certainly and equally will not go anywhere. Thank you very much for the reminder that without significant investment in these critically important sectors, the future that our late president dreamt of, the future that we want to support and continue rallying behind, will remain a dream. Because Namibians are very serious, Right Honourable Prime Minister, to strike a balance between very serious matters, but also we know very well how it is that we can catch our breath on this beautiful March summer evening. We've invited a very special guest. She goes by the name of Letitia, and she, in case you don't know, has a number of very fascinating aces up her sleeve. The only commitment and dedicated effort I need from you is to give her a resounding round of applause. I would imagine that you're not surprised or intrigued, hence the round of applause. Mr. Kalenga, by a show of hands, who had a bad Thursday? I think we need to sort that out right now. By a show of hands, who had a bad Thursday? Mr. Gerte, did you have a bad Thursday? Mr. Urap, did you have a bad Thursday? Mr. Nepolo, I see there are two of you in the house. Did any of you have a bad Thursday? Mr. Nepolo Sr. couldn't have had a bad Thursday because he started on Good Morning Namibia bright and early, so his was great. So did any one of us have a bad Thursday? Let's please give Madam Letitia a resounding round of applause.
Hello, beautiful people of Namibia. Hi. It's my first song I'm going to sing as a cover song, and please enjoy. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me when the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains should crumble into the sea. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. King okay, yeah, come on. Oh, stand by me. Oh, thank you, come on. Oh, oh, stand by me. So, darling, darling, stand by me. Ooh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Thank you, everybody.
Let's please give her another massive round of applause. Letitia, you played such a critically important role. Are you able to observe that the energy in the room has shifted? Ladies and gentlemen, we owe her another round of applause, just a small one. Right, Honorable Prime Minister, one consistent feature about Dynamite, it would seem, is that it does continue to come in small packages. Namibia is a country bursting at the seams with wholeness and goodness and such incredible talent. What a beautiful time, what a beautiful country, such beautiful people. Is it not so? Ladies and gentlemen, is it not so? The Green Hydrogen Commissioner of the country, who is also the President's economic advisor, goes by the name of James Nupe. On account of national priorities, he finds himself representing the land of the brave elsewhere at the moment. But what Mr. Nupe has done in the meantime, as a precious resource, right, Honorable Prime Minister, he has slowly but surely started cloning James Nupe. It might seem like a difficult task to accomplish, but the proof again of the pudding lies in the empirical evidence of the eating. To tell us more about where one of the key emerging industries that goes by the name of green hydrogen fits into the bigger picture. And we shouldn't forget this evening we are focusing on the funding of tertiary education being a primary driver of the economic emancipation that we so desperately desire in this country. Help me to put our collective hands together for the head policy planning and strategy at the Green Hydrogen Commissioner. He goes by the name of Mr. Joseph Mukendwa. Let's please give him a massive round of applause. Mr. Mukendwa, you had me very nervous there for a moment. I thought if the build-up is this massive and perhaps Mr. Mukendwa is elsewhere engaged with national priorities, it would be a bit awkward, but I'm happy you're here. Let's give him another round of applause.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand on the protocol that has been observed. I'm standing here in the stead of Mr. James Munyupe, who unfortunately could not make it this evening due to other national priorities, equally competing national priorities. I'll definitely need a lot more than just the clicker, madam. I've got my presentation here with me. Gentlemen, my sincere apologies. Seems we're going to have some technical difficulties. For the sake of time, we will not go into the presentation. If you'll allow me, I'll then just speak from the notes that I have. We've been invited here to speak a bit about the Namibia Green Hydrogen Program and what we are busy with. The theme for tonight is around tertiary education funding. We find ourselves as the Green Hydrogen Program having to engage various stakeholders because we are also involved in the skills development and education sector. As you can imagine, green hydrogen is a new field, a new industry. We need to ensure that we have the skill sets to ensure that we can actually realize our dream of green industrialization. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's befitting for us, or for me rather, to start off by just providing a little bit of insights in terms of what the green hydrogen program is. I think a lot of people still don't know what we are. And I must also highlight that we have a comprehensive engagement plan in terms of marketing as well as stakeholder relations that we'll be rolling out for the remainder of the year, so as to ensure that all our various stakeholders understand what we do and that we need all key parties, all stakeholders to come to the party to work together for the realization of what our late president has envisioned in terms of industrialization of this country. Now, you may have seen in the papers recently, there were some executives that were appointed. I'm one of those. Joseph Mukendwa, as was introduced. My role is Head of Planning, Policy, and Strategy at the Green Hydrogen Program, but I'm also the liaison for skills development. So I'll be the person that you speak to, that you engage with, in as far as education and development are actually concerned. Now, you want to obviously hear what exactly we've been busy with since we started. I must say, we've been thrown in on the deep end. I started just over 3 weeks ago. I'm 3.5 weeks into my job, and I've already been thrown onto the spotlight to speak a bit about what we're thinking. So in this regard, as you can imagine, we started off by trying to get a sense of the lay of the land in as far as skills development is concerned. And I must apologize if my speaking tonight is going to be primarily focused on what we're doing in the space of education and research and also training. So forgive me if you're expecting more details in terms of the various sectors. Mr. Munyupe will certainly be able to appraise us in that regard, but today I'll really be focusing on what we're doing and how we are approaching skills development in as far as the green hydrogen sector is concerned. So we started off by just trying to understand the lay of the land, and we looked at a global perspective. I saw earlier there was a green hydrogen skills document that was portrayed or that was displayed on the TV. That is essentially a study that was done in the UK where they looked at what their needs are in as far as skills development is concerned. So in that regard, they highlight a number of key approaches. First and foremost, obviously being able to understand what are the skills that are needed in our country. There's been several research that has been carried out. Most recently, especially when it comes to the green hydrogen sector, we know that GIZ commissioned a study where PTX, supported with GIZ, actually carried out an assessment to see where and what skills are required at the different levels. So that work has currently been carried out. So for us, as the Green Hydrogen Program, we will now be working together with the Ministry of Higher Education. I must actually highlight that we are here to support government in its efforts. So we are here to work with the key stakeholders like the Ministry of Higher Education and Training, Higher Education, Training and Innovation. So essentially what we'll be doing then is to engage with the line ministry and the line ministers to speak about what exactly we need to do, what strategies we need to put in place to ensure that we can actually ensure that we have the skills in place to be able to assist us in our drive to ensure that we industrialize the green economy. So that is one of the things we'll be embarking upon. Secondly, as a Green Hydrogen Program, one of our key areas of focus will be working together with the Ministry of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, would be to solicit and secure resources to support the skills development as well as training endeavors. I'm happy to say, Honorable Minister, that it's one of the reasons why it took a bit of time to get here. I'm a little bit out of breath. We're coming from engagements with key institutions such as the World Bank that we've been talking to around financial support in as far as technical assistance for them to assist us to make sense of the work that is currently being done in terms of skills development, and even take it further as well as look at financial support to actually implement the actual training of our Namibians to be able to deliver on the promise. So that is where I'm coming from now. One other thing that we'll definitely be embarking upon as a Green Hydrogen Program is to ensure that we bring private sector together with the public sector. This endeavor requires all parties to come to the party. When we talk about private sector, we know there are a number of projects that are already in place. Thank you so much. We know that there are a number of projects that are currently operating in the country. We know Hyphen in the south, and there are a few others in the central region. So as the green hydrogen program will actually be then ensuring that the private sector comes on board, that we have these conversations around skills development. They are the ones to tell us what are the skills that they need at the different levels, so that when we do put our Namibians through the programs, that they are secured a job at the end of that process. So that is what we'll actually be embarking upon as well. What I can also share with the House tonight, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister, is that we are not just looking at documentation and doing studies and reviewing what has already been done, but we've already started implementing scholarships. One that I can share with you tonight is with the support of SASCAL and through the partnership between the Namibian government and the German government, there are scholarships that are currently that have been awarded to students that are going to be studying master's degrees as well as TVET level for them to ensure that they get the relevant skills, such that when we start to roll out these programs, such that when we start to roll out these projects in the south and elsewhere, that we have the skill sets to be able to support us or to be able to drive the green industrialization. And as far as the SASCO support is concerned, we received in excess of 5 million euros that has actually been applied towards skills development. And we've had 2 cohorts whereby we've identified students that are being supported in this regard. The first cohort, we have about 93 students. 63 of those are master's students, and 30 of them are TVET level students. And they are currently engaged at different institutions. And we just completed cohort 2, that was finalized at the beginning of this year, where we decided this time around that we focus more on TVET students. So we actually have 60 students that will actually be supported in as far as TVET is concerned, and 30 students will be supported in as far as masters is concerned. Our local institutions of higher learning are engaged, and they are part and parcel of the process, and we're working closely together with them to ensure that we can realize the skills development requirements for our people. Thank you so much. And I think that brings me towards the end of my brief contribution to the discussions this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to finish off by saying the realization of the green industrialization strategy. And maybe before I do that, there is a green industrialization blueprint that has been developed, that is being escalated to Cabinet for their consideration and approval, and that will really form the basis of which industries are going to be focused on in as far as industrialization is concerned. So that is in the pipeline. But what I want to end off with is that this endeavor is going to require all of us to come together, all the key parties being government, being private sector, being your tertiary education institutions, your TVET institutions, the communities, to ensure that we can fully realize our dreams to become an industrialized nation, particularly in the green hydrogen sector. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention.
That applause was certainly not powered by green hydrogen. Let's please give the gentleman another round of applause. Critically important announcements. The Namibia Press Agency has a YouTube channel called Nampa TV. There are at least 25 cameras that I can see. It's getting darker, so perhaps my sight is slightly impaired, but only slightly. The reflection of how your day went could appear on Nampa TV. So be very mindful of the manner of engaged look presented on your face at all material times. That's just a cautionary note from the bottom of my heart. Be very, very mindful. Secondly, I think Mr. Mukendwa can't be off the hook that easily. We have time for a maximum of 2 stakeholder-related contributions. In the event that you're a stakeholder and you seek clarification that is of national interest, that is Nampa TV worthy, you do have an opportunity. We do have a revolving microphone. Please make use of this opportunity. Mr. Kalenga, is there a hand? Kindly take the revolving microphone. Beverly, thank you very much. Please tell us who you are, and do tell us in what capacity you're asking that question. Keep it very brief and to the point. Thank you very much.
Yes, good evening. My name is Parastas Nepolo. I'm an entrepreneur, also a vocational education owner, also offering renewable energy, which is solar energy, NTA program. I just wanted to know why the program is not funding the students that are only NTA approved, only those that are approved by NQA. I think NQA and NTA, they are equally important, and I think they must not disadvantage the young Namibian that want to pursue the study. Because if you are a new vocational, you need to have the whole year before get accredited by NQA. That's a requirement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Valid question. We unfortunately don't have time for an elaborate interaction. Is there a second stakeholder-related contribution before we let Mr. Mukendwa off the hook? This is an incredibly valuable opportunity created for us by the Namibia Press Agency. Mr. Uirap, do you have a question? Going once. Mr. Gertze. Mr. Kalenga seems so restless, but he's from the other side of town. Very well. Go for it, sir.
Thank you very much for the question. I think it goes without saying, in as far as training and education in general is concerned, we need to make sure that we finance programs that are accredited, that give students a qualification that means something. So I'm not too certain, Mr. Kapolo, in terms of where your information, where you got your data from, sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology, but in as far as we are concerned, the approach has been we're working only with accredited, registered and accredited training providers in as far as the scholarships are concerned.
So I think you're off the hook. Thank you very much. Let's please give him another round of applause. Mr. Paratus Nepolo, my recommendation is, before Mr. Mukendwa leaves the premises this evening, that you perhaps engage him. And that's also our official recommendation. Make sure that you make optimal use of this opportunity to network and to ask those questions that we may not have enough time for on the official platform, but all the experts are in the room. The Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund is represented by a team this evening. However, the Chief Executive Officer is on compassionate leave, and our thoughts are also with him and his family, and they will not speak at this juncture, but they are available for engagement this evening. Without any further ado, I'd like us to put our hands together for Professor Kenneth Matengu, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Namibia.
Thank you very much, Director of this event. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Deputy Minister, I observe the protocols as earlier established. I have been advised that I have only 10 minutes, maximum, he says. So I'm going to try and just cause a dialogue. I'm not going to speak about UNAM, I'll speak broadly as a sector. And I want to start by asking the question, what is the purpose of a national budget? Because we're doing a budget review discussion now. So first question is, what is the purpose of a national budget? Traditionally, a national budget is a platform that government uses to allow its nation to know how the resources it has raised will be used. In other words, it's a system that allows for accountability in terms of taxpayers as well as the legislature. This is traditionally. This approach of seeing a national budget from that way has changed over time, and different governments use budget in different ways. More in the modern approach, a budget, a national budget, is a tool used to cause development. It is a tool that you use to steer the direction of a country's programs. In other words, through the budget, you are able to determine what is of priority and what is not. In other words, a budget is not there for the government to do everything on earth. It is a prioritization of the obligations that the state has to the nation. But how does a government get to those prioritizations? There are many ways, but whatever system they would use, it would come to two things. One is services of strategic interest and services of general interest. What are those services of strategic interest? It is those services that are critical to a country's development, that if there is no investment in those services, such a nation will falter in its development objectives. And the obligations the state has to the people would be compromised. These are health, agriculture, the security sector, and education. Typically, if a country is in trouble, those who use this model, they increase investments in this. Why? Because, for example, if the economic situation is bad, you have to increase the budget in education, because those people who get retrenched are what? Companies never retrench high-level skilled people. They always retrench those that they see don't have the skills they need. So it means people must go back where? To education for reskilling, for upskilling. What are the services of general interest? Services of general interest could be things like public transport. It could be things like postal services. They are there, they are needed, but they are not critical to a country's future. So the question is this budget helping steering the direction that this country says it wants to? What is that direction? There are a few. We have very clear consensus as a nation that we must embrace fourth industrial revolution requirements, the competencies that are required to cope. We have a consensus that we are going to explore and pursue green hydrogen. We have consensus that we are going to explore and pursue petroleum and gas. Are these sectors represented adequately in terms of funding for education? If there is, what is the percentage of the budget that is targeting these requirements? I'm not going to say yes or no, but you can assess for yourselves, are these things being steered? Because the purpose of a budget is to steer the direction. It's also to steer education in the direction where you want very clearly the objectives that must be achieved and the programs that the institutions must undertake. Now we have made these decisions, but if you are not allocating resources to cause development to happen, because development is very simple. It's not the same as economic growth. Development, if you want to know whether development is taking place or not, you ask what is happening to poverty levels, what is happening to education, what is happening to life expectancies, what is happening to food security, and so on. For economic growth, you ask a different question. How much FDI is coming in the country? How much resources are coming? These are different things. But the budget has to cause development through building competencies that a country needs. If we made this decision that these are the areas we're going to explore, and we are not funding, it's the same as not making a decision. A decision is only valid if it is assigned the resources to achieve the objectives of that decision. If you don't assign resources to a decision, you have not made a decision. And I think as a country we need to reflect, are we really using the budget to steer education to achieve the competencies the sectors need? I stop there. Thank you.
Nitumezi, Prof. Let's just give him another round of applause, please. Notwithstanding the additional round of applause, he's not off the hook yet. Professor Matengu is asking disruptive questions. So if we regard a national budget to be a tool to cause development, if we regard the national budget to be a tool to steer the programs, do we see enough evidence that we're financing this future we are working towards? We have time for a maximum of 2 stakeholder-related contributions. In the event that a stakeholder wants to put his rhetorical questions back to him, as the chairperson of these proceedings, I will grant your application. Is the microphone available? Please raise your hand. Do not let go of this opportunity. Economics 101 teaches us, if we do not choose A, we have to choose B and therefore forgo A, and vice versa. Mr. Gertze, do you have a question? Mr. Nepolo, Junior, do you have a question? Was it so bad? Professor Matengu wants to know, was it so bad? There's a lady at that table who has a stakeholder-related contribution. Kindly tell us who it is that you are, and then keep your contribution brief and to the point, please. Madam Beverly on this side, please. Thank you. Right behind you. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you. Velmay speaking from Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Prof mentioned the word economic. To private sector, that is a trigger keyword. I concur with you, Prof, that resources are key. The potency of our education at this time is beyond what we can work out in statistics if we want to look at the past. When we look at the potential of resources, firstly our students, and the transformation that these emerging technologies can actually bring to upskill our education levels to participate on opportunities such as the previous speaker's industry. I believe that these emerging technologies that we are have been invited to discuss under the budget for education has got an immense transformative impact potential. And it's up to us as stakeholders to tap into that potential and help to build on it. If we look at the state of our economy, I believe we are building towards a resilient economy with the emerging technologies, and that the training and development effort that has been started already simply by putting together consultations such as these, we should actually, we mustn't lose the momentum. We must build upon the momentum by the initiative of tonight. And I'm grateful actually to NAMPA for calling the meeting together tonight. I'm grateful, Honorable Minister, for the clear desire of the Ministry of Education to uplift our economy. Thank you.
Is there another stakeholder-related contribution or comment? We'll make a separate room for the media, Mrs. Beekes. We're ready for you. You'll have a one-on-one opportunity in a bit. A stakeholder-related contribution. Please tell us who you are. Keep it brief and to the point. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heleni Amadila. I'm from FNB Communications. My question is in relation to the agriculture budget. A lot of people feel that it's not enough. And I know it's not directly involved in education, but everybody's going to eat. So how are we going to feed our nation if the agriculture budget is limited? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the comments and questions. I think there's a lot that can be said and discussed about these matters, and that's why I think I'm saying, for me, it's just, I think, to cause dialogue, to help us start to think of how could we do things differently. So I think you didn't really have a question to me, you were commenting, but my reaction to you is, you see, what is required for a country to develop is not just to have programs and qualifications, is to focus on skills and competencies. When do we say a person is competent? Is when they have the qualification and the experience. So competency is a product of qualification and experience. Qualification must be based on standards and levels. And we know standards change. They are not constant. It's the same as quality. So in building up the economy, you have to be responding to what a person needs to be competent in the sector, but also to be competent in the sector of training. Both must be speaking to these competencies for the person to have the ability to change and contribute to the economy. And that is why you'll find in many, many different countries, developed countries, they put more money all the time to research. And research simply means asking questions again and again. If we have questions, we have to put them through to education to respond, because education in its response, it provides the innovation to that question. Education sees challenges as opportunities for economic growth. It doesn't see the problems as a problem. And that's why we must invest in education. I know there was a lot, Minister indicated the investment in NASFAF and so on. Actually, we must be asking, if we critique that, how much of the people who are passing are actually accessing higher education? And we know the figures now. With this increase, are we saying we are really funding the top of the cream, the top of the cream that we want to change the economy? There are questions whether we are doing that because of absence of standards, and we need to address that. Agriculture, I agree with you. People need to feed, to eat, whether there is war or no war. But if you are not taking charge of the agenda as a nation, you will not be able to be self-reliant. Education only does three things: producing competitiveness, self-reliance, and welfare of citizens. And these, when you apply it to agriculture, it means we must be self-reliant in terms of seeds. At the moment, we are not. We are dependent on seed imports. And with this drought, I can tell you, I've seen some figures, it's going to be very difficult. Secondly, it also requires that you have a certain degree of capacity to support people, not just farmers, but people who want to do food production at a low level. In other words, you have to be self-reliant on how you produce feeds to be able to feed, whether it is fish or chicken or cattle. if you leave it in the hand of God, you are not causing development. You have to take charge of it. Thank you.
Food, nutrition for thought from Professor Matengu from the University of Namibia. Please give him another round of applause. We're building towards the keynote address by the Right Honourable Prime Minister. We explained to you the NASFAF situation earlier. We explained to you that the Chief Executive Officer could not be here on account of compassionate leave. However, NASFAF takes their statutory mandate very seriously and has decided they're not going to be in our midst, and we talk about them without being actively engaged and present. We do apologize on our behalf for the late communication to them, but I do want to invite all of us to put our hands together for Mr. Wise Emmanuel. He's the Company Secretary of NASFAF, for a short address on behalf of the fund. Let's please put our hands together for Mr. Emmanuel.
I recognize the presence of the Right Honourable Prime Minister, our line minister, and all other captain of industry. My name is Philemon Wise Emmanuel, as indicated by the directors of the proceeding, and I take this opportunity, graciously so, to speak about where NASFAF fits in the national development agenda, particularly toward an industrialized Namibia. You would all agree with me, very briefly, that the Namibia Student Financial Assistance Fund is the only institution that is statutorily mandated to enable students to undertake their study at various institutions. Now, in doing so, we would also be on terms to agree that insofar as the tertiary education is concerned, or the tertiary education sector is concerned, we are the greatest beneficiary of the national budget. Now, the question that we should ask ourselves at this platform and in these types of engagement thereof is, when we are the greatest beneficiary of the national budget within the tertiary education sector, how do we use that budget? And I want to demonstrate to you very briefly that as an institution, one, we are the feeding pot for the transformational agenda or transformational process, because for anybody to go to UNAM, for anybody to go to NAST, and for anybody to go to any tertiary institution, that student, save if is privately funding, has to go through the door of NASFAF. Now, as an institution, what is that we have put in place to ensure that our funding and our expenditure focuses on what matters, or on the mission critical for the nation? We have what is called the priority field of study, and in terms of that list, we among the courses that we consider as priorities, we are funding, information technology. We are funding computer science. We are funding food technology. We are funding, water engineering. We are funding telecommunication, and we are funding so many other courses that verges on ICT or artificial intelligence. Why are we doing that as an institution? We are doing it in our effort and in our attempt to enable the attainment of an industrialized nation that we all dream of. Now, critical questions when it comes to public spending. The budget, which is the distributions of national resources toward meeting the national need. We should not be talking about just mere allocation. The moment we are talking about allocations of public resources, we must equally reflect on the concept of leadership. That those that are entrusted with institution where government is spending massive amount of public resources are indeed those that command ethical tones. To ensure that those resources are spent for what they are intended for, to ensure that those resources are accounted for as and when, the accounting question is raised. That then borders on those that are entrusted with governance at this institution, that boards of institution where public is allocating resources must manage those resources in the public interest. And I can proudly confirm that NASFAF is one of those institutions that we have seen focusing very seriously on governance. And we are accounting for what has been assigned to us, and where there are questions, we are prepared to answer those questions under the stewardship of our board. We have the intentions of ensuring that we complement whatever we get from government. And you may have probably heard about our recovery effort as an initiative to complement the budgetary allocation from government. We then want, as we discuss the question of how does NASFAF spend whatever has been allocated to it, that in our respective designations and capacity as we sit here, we are then also thinking of how best we can aid NASFAF to recover what it has given to its former beneficiaries. We have a number of proposals that will probably be serving, at the desk of the Right Honorable Prime Minister through our line minister to strengthen our recovery arm. We want your support to make sure that those that are heading captains of industry, you urge employees under your care that are former beneficiary of the fund to come forward and start repaying. I want to recognize the former CEO of DBN. He is one of those that has taken a very bold step to urge his staff members at DBN to, those that have benefited, to repay. And there are a number of other institutions that have done so. That is the only way that will contribute to the sustainability or to the financial sustainability of the fund. And then we can talk of a consolidated budgeting. Thank you so much.
Please give Mr. Emmanuel another round of applause. We have time for one stakeholder-related contribution. While you ponder whether or not you are that stakeholder, we do understand that nature is a real thing. In the likely event that nature calls, you exit where we entered. Remember that where that happened? And then you approach the reception, and as you enter, immediately right, and then a sharp turn left. If you are racing towards that facility at 120 kilometers an hour, you might miss it. So please be very cautious when you make your way to that important facility. So at reception, right, and then immediately left again. If there's a problem, if there's a challenge, you need some guidance, we are able and available to provide such guidance. One stakeholder-related contribution. Beverly, the contributor, is here. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself. Keep it brief. We don't have time for an elaborate back and forth and interaction. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Yehuda Heita Kambuta. I'm from the Association of Technical Vocational Training Center in Namibia. Currently, we have 45 members, and our members would like to find out or to know, with an increase or rather additional funding to NASFAF, are we likely to see NASFAF extending funding to technical, to the private training providers? Because right now, the funding comes from our colleagues, NTA. If it's 90 to 100% of funding come from training levy under NTA. So are we likely to see NASFAF extending funding to trainees pursuing TVET qualification to private training institution? This is either tuition fees or non-tuition fees. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kambuta, for that question. In actual fact, in our current operation, we are supporting, TVET students, maybe not to the extent that everybody expects, but we are supporting TVET students. And where we are falling short is really due to policy limitation. But I am pleased to announce that we have received, under the leadership of our minister, I think we working hand in hand with the Prime Minister, we have recently received a directive, to review our funding policy, to cater for the element of inclusivity and equity. And we are in the process of actually looking at our policy with the intentions of catering for those students that may be falling in between the cracks. But I must say that still, even if we are going to review it, there will be some threshold against which the student or the trainees are going to be measured, in order to ensure that there is quality and there is also return on investment. So you may have heard the questions that the Vice Chancellor of the university has posed to the effect that, if NASFAF is funding or is spending so much, do we have a tracer, or do we do tracer studies in terms of where those people are after finishing their studies and so forth? All those factors, among others, are going to be considered as we review our policy. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Philemon Wise Emmanuel, please give him another round of applause. If you have questions that you felt were not appropriate for a public platform, but they're still in the interest of the economic growth and development, thank you for Professor Matengu for helping us differentiate between economic growth and development. Those are different matters that need to be interrogated differently. But if you have a question for Mr. Philemon Wise Emmanuel, if you have a question for Professor Matengu, do not let them leave the premises without engaging them this evening. There's a national commission tasked with research, science, and technology, and this very commission is headed by the lady who goes by the name of Professor Anisha Peters. I would like to invite all of us to put our hands together for Prof. Peters. I know it's getting late, but that will not do. Let's put our hands together and give Prof. Peters a proper round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Honorable Deputy Minister of ICT, I also recognize the Chair of the Board member as well as the CEO of NAMPA. Allow me to stand on the protocol as previously established. Good evening, everyone. Now, one of my challenges is, I know that Denver is going to come and stand over here, and then he's going to tell me that I need to finish. So let me speak very quickly, because it's a topic that I get very excited about on all of its facets. Now, currently, we are sort of at the end of the 4th Industrial Revolution, and we're morphing into the 5th Industrial Revolution. Various scholars have different definitions. Some of them are saying that we've already entered the 5th Industrial Revolution at the end of 2020. However, what is the 5th Industrial Revolution? It's essentially putting the human back into the loop. It is looking at human-machine interactions. And then we're looking at the ethics, responsible AI. Because what has been happening, and also lately, is that AI is running away, right? Some of the big questions that's being posed at this point in time is, for instance, is AI already sentient? Sentient means self-aware. Another question that is also being posed is, are we all going to be replaced? A question for those experts within AI is machine-to-machine interaction. Now, people like me are one of the advocates that says no machine-to-machine interaction, because as AI is evolving at the moment, it's a black box, right? We have to ask AI to explain itself, because we cannot fully account for what it is doing, even us who are the developers of it. So this poses a real threat. For instance, there was the Munich Security Conference recently. There was a tech accord signed by a number of tech agencies and others. I was one of the signatures under Microsoft Research Africa that signed a tech accord on combating the deceptive use of AI during elections. 40 countries this year are heading into elections. Namibia is one of them. So how do we combat the deceptive use of AI? Do you think that we are spared in Namibia? We are not. If you have a cell phone in your pocket, in your bag, right now in your hand, we are all at risk. Nobody is spared. Another question, and this is why perhaps we're looking at the 5th Industrial Revolution, is also that within AI, we're looking at AI for scientific discovery up to the year 2050. I was part of that group as well, but now what we've decided is to do it for the African continent, because what concerns us, those of us on the African continent in AI, is how do we leverage AI to solve our own challenges right here in Africa, right here in Namibia. Because there is a lot of good that can come from AI. However, we always have to mitigate against the negatives. Right now, concerns are abound about the governance of AI. High-risk AI, weaponization of AI. We had formed a Geneva Compact, 24 experts, I was one of them worldwide, a Geneva Compact on the ethical reframing of AI. Do you see how AI is going to impact every one of us? Nobody is spared. Now let's zero in a little bit. Why are we so concerned about Africa and in particular Namibia? Because to do R&D, education, all of the sectors are impacted. We can either use AI for good, and we can get efficiencies and effectiveness in our government services, in our delivery of healthcare services, within the agricultural field, in the nexus of water, energy, and food security. There are many: combating climate change, youth unemployment. The list is endless because it enables everything, everything that the sun touches, and even that is in the elephant's graveyard. Now, in Namibia, we're looking, for instance, at the moment, at green hydrogen, oil and gas, the blue economy, critical raw materials, etc. And then we're bringing in how is 4IR technologies, and in particular, AI, going to enable that. But as I mentioned already, we have other priorities. The whole of Southern Africa is energy insecure. If South Africa goes bust, right now, many of the countries surrounding, including Namibia, goes bust. Water, we have already seen that we have messages about shortages in water. We spoke about agriculture and food security. We're talking about One Health. And the list goes on. We have overarching concerns with global climate change. We have concerns with youth unemployment. We have concerns with inclusion. And then we have the concern with education. Education encompasses many things: skills, formal teaching and training, lifelong learning, but one of them is research and development and innovation. And that is what we need to look at as well. Now, if we look at the budget, what are we seeing? If we look at the higher education sector, and where we need to enable sort of these technologies into all of the sectors, and we have to start actually from basic education. How well are we doing as Namibia? How well are we addressing our challenges? I want to give you a brief outline of the mandate of the NCRST, and how does it tie into this. We are responsible for the coordination, promotion, development, and oversight of research, science, technology, and innovation in Namibia. And ideally, we should be coordinating across all of the OMAs and all of the different sectors. And you know what? If we can, for instance, demarcate R&D, because we see in national and international R&D indicators that Namibia is not doing well in terms of defining how much are we actually spending on R&D. We're not asking for a bigger allocation. We're looking at demarcating what money is government actually investing into R&D. Because R&D, all of those sectors I mentioned, will actually help us to move forward and to build our country on the basis of science and technology. We are also responsible for defining research priorities within the country, the national research agenda. And also, did you know that we have a National Research, Science and Technology Fund that was actually established under the Act, the RST Act, and we are responsible for administering that. To date, we've given out 172 research grants, and in the last 6 months, 10 research grants, and that is to the tune of over 130 million in total. Just in the last 10 months, we managed to get 30 million, and we have more that's in the pipeline. But that is to enable the Professor Matengos and the NAST and those in the business sector and other OMAs to actually be able to do the research, to answer the questions that was said previously. We are also, and I have 3 more points, we are also responsible for innovation coordination. they refer to us as a National Innovation Agency, but we coordinate, right, the entire sector. So if you are a private tech hub or innovation hub, we coordinate that. We've also supported 1,500 innovators, right, across the country in all regions. However, we're also responsible for national facilities. We are responsible to make sure that researchers and innovators are able to access national infrastructure and facilities. You need to be able to walk into a research lab and go and do and answer your question in there. And yet we have only one national GMO lab that the NCRST has, biotechnology lab. We need to invest more in infrastructure. If we don't have national facilities, we go bust. In the Fourth Industrial Revolution Task Force report, there was a recommendation that we needed a national AI institute. With everything that I said before when I started, I hope that you understand why it's important that Namibia also gets into the age of AI. Furthermore, the NCRST is also responsible to appoint councils, like the Biosafety Council, like the National Space Science Council that we've just appointed yesterday. We will be appointing the Indigenous Knowledge Systems Council, and we are responsible for all of the data within research, science, technology, and innovation, as well as providing policy briefs to the President, to the Cabinet, to the Honorable Minister, Line Minister, and to you as Namibians. And I promised that that was my last point. So, in conclusion, if we dissect the budget, I would say that we need to see how can we make a smarter budget, perhaps by reallocation of things and not necessarily increase. We can introduce an R&D levy which can serve as a tax incentive to all of our, for instance, multinationals who are coming in, companies that are coming in, all of the FDI that we're bringing in. So those are some of the ideas. I have a lot more, but I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
I have 250 questions for Professor Peters, but I will try my best to practice restraint. Just give her another round of applause, please. On account of a lengthy but very important presentation, we have time for half a question from a stakeholder. Mr. Edward Nepolo, would you like to be responsible and accept accountability for that half a contribution? Madam Beverly, I think the microphone needs to make its way to the front to Mr. Nepolo for an industry-related contribution. How do we combat the deceptive use of artificial intelligence? What is the conversation that we have around governance, around weaponization of artificial intelligence? And how do we go about, if we're serious about research and development, Mr. Nepolo, to come up with a smarter budget to reflect that priority? But do you have a contribution for the good professor, please?
All right. Thank you, Denver, for putting me on the spot. I don't know actually what to ask from that. I think it was pretty clear. It's just I would like to emphasize the importance of research in the country, because it's the basis at which we are able to make decisions for the future, and also make sure that we invest a significant amounts of funds into the education, because I would like to lean on the famous words of Nelson Mandela. He says education is the most important weapon in which you can change the world. And so if we really are interested in changing the world, it's essential that we directly invest in education. Thank you. You haven't told the audience who you are. Oh, sorry. My name is Edward Nepolo. I'm the head of the Computer Science Department at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Thank you very much, Denver.
Wow, I think that he's actually done the job for me, a very good advocate. But I also want to introduce him in another capacity and that is that he is one of the few, if not the only, ethical hacker in Namibia for cybersecurity. Edward Napolo.
Right, Honorable Prime Minister, believe it or not, the concept, the phenomenon of an ethical hacker exists, and we should explore and exploit that resource if we're serious about the economic emancipation of our country. Let's give the good professor another round of applause. We are 2 items shy of the keynote address, and then dinner is already ready, just waiting for us. I know it's a school night. I know many of you may have angry partners at home because they now have to take care of the homework and get the kids ready. But this is a matter that is of national interest. So if you need the Prime Minister to sign off the letter, or if you need to take a picture with the Prime Minister to document that indeed you were here for an official alibi, let's please put our heads and our hands together to organize that very strategically. Is that a deal? Is that a deal? I'd like to call on the Acting Vice-Chancellor of the Namibia University of Science and Technology, Madame Miriam Berenice Dikwa, for her contribution. Let's give her a big round of applause. After striking a deal with you just now, that's the applause that we get. Let's try again, please.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings. Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, our Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Technology and Innovation, Deputy Minister of ICT, allow me to stand on the protocol that has already been observed. I'm representing the Vice-Chancellor of the Namibia University of Science and Technology, Dr. Errol Naumap, here tonight, as he's unfortunately not able to be here. But it is a rare honor and a pleasure to be invited to this very important platform, themed Funding Modalities in the Age of Artificial Intelligence and the Fourth and Fifth Industrial Revolutions. The Namibia University of Science and Technology shares its commitment towards embracing 4IR and 5IR. Aligned with Vision 2030, the National Development Plan of Namibia and the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2, NAS deliberately adopts and lives in the age of artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share with you just some snapshots into some of the projects that we do undertake at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. The Faculty of Computing and Informatics is leading multiple emerging technology projects aimed at driving innovation for safer, smarter, and more secure future. I wish to highlight a few out of many such initiatives in the interest of time. Our smart parking project is earmarked to use Internet of Things sensors to create an efficient parking management system, streamlining parking experience and reducing congestion in Windhoek's open street parking bays. Another initiative that we hold very close to us is the Namibia National Cybersecurity Competition. This competition aims to create a collaborative space for cybersecurity experts to protect Namibia's digital assets, aligning with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It fosters a learning environment to raise awareness of cybersecurity, professionals, and the public. The competition provides training to stimulate real-world cyber threats and social engineering challenges, promoting technical and non-technical cybersecurity awareness and secure systems development in Namibia and beyond. We also then have the Plant Disease Identification Project. In collaboration with Makerere University, the Nelson Mandela African Institution of Science and Technology, this project aims to apply AI technology to identify plant diseases and thereby protect agriculture and ensure food security. Making Windhoek Safe project. This project leverages artificial intelligence and Internet of Things devices to develop innovative security and public safety solutions in collaboration with the city of Windhoek. Ladies and gentlemen, NAST is also running a project focused on developing data security policy compliance to further enhance data protection. The developed framework assists organizations in the country to effectively manage and govern their data. As much as we make use of data and artificial intelligence, it's very important that we maintain the integrity thereof and have policies such as this in place. By implementing proper data governance and security policies, organizations can not only protect their data, but also leverage it for better decision-making and innovation. In the age of 4IR and 5IR, data governance is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for organizations looking to thrive in the digital economy. In conclusion, these projects in emerging technologies are essential for our nation's progress in the digital age. By embracing data governance and security best practices, organizations in Namibia can stay ahead of the curve and effectively navigate the complexities of the digital landscape. We're excited to continue our work in this space and contribute to the nation's success in the 4th and 5th industrial revolutions. And the financial support that the university and the students enjoy through government subvention and the fund makes all of these exhilarating projects a reality and enables NAST to play a part in the development of our great nation. With those short few comments, I thank you and hand over back to Denver.
Big round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Mrs. Dikwa and I went to a German school, Right Honorable Prime Minister, where we were taught draconian time management. And it's clear that years after the fact, we still honor that lesson. Is it not so, Madame? We have time for one industry-related contribution. The chairperson and the chief executive officer of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board has once publicly accused me of being a draconian time manager. It's a pity she's not here this evening to witness how much pride I take in that title and honor. Do we have a question, an industry-related contribution for NAST? Mr. Gertze, MultiChoice is scheming a collaboration, I can see it in your eyes, with what the Namibia University of Science and Technology is doing. It's clear, it's written all over Mr. Gertze's face. Going once, Mr. Kalenga, do you have to? Kindly introduce yourself. Tell us in what capacity you're asking the question and keep it brief and to the point, please.
Thank you, Denver. Good evening, all. Thank you, Ms. Dikwa. My question is really in regards to the National Energy Institute. What deliberations are we having, or what efforts are we trying to make sure that we capacitate that institute to be on par with whatever we are discussing here today in terms of 5IR and 5IR, and to be globally competitive given the rise in the energy discussion and interest, to make sure that we are well equipped in terms of our pursuit of energy independence and eradicating energy poverty. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Denver. My name is Franz Kalenga. I'm the head of sustainable energies at NAMCO.
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Kalenga. The Namibia Energy Institute came into existence quite a few number of years ago, and it's in collaboration with the Ministry of Mines and Energy. And from the university perspective, what we really try to put in place to support the Namibia Energy Institute, first of all, is to ensure that the human capital on the ground is sufficient. So if I remember correctly, last year we went on a very specific drive to get the right director in place, because we believe that with the right leadership, the direction of the Namibia Energy Institute will be determined correctly. And then in terms of funding, of course, we assist the Namibia Energy Institute in terms of operational funding. And of course, now they form part of our research, innovation, and partnerships directorate under the Deputy Vice Chancellor for research, innovation, and partnerships. And through that through that directorate, they support in terms of getting the necessary funding for the research to take place at that institute. So I think the support really is human capital, support financially, and also the research drive that is there from the Directorate of Research. I hope that answers your question.
Give her a round
partially.
of applause, please. Honourable Minister, I'm sure you're very proud. Our institutions are really in such capable hands. What a time, what a country, what beautiful people. Our last interaction before we get to the keynote address, I'd like to invite you all to please put your hands together for the Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Training and Education Fund, Madam Lillian Mulemi. Please give her a massive round of applause. Please give her a massive round of applause.
I'm standing between your dinner, your families, and your social responsibilities. So I'm going to try and keep my presentation exciting, informative, but at the same time, I'll try to keep it short. I'd prepared a presentation for you this evening. I'll try to go through it as briefly as I can and just capture the key highlights. But first and foremost, thank you to the facilitator. Allow me to recognize the presence of our Right Honorable Prime Minister, Sarah Kuongerwa-Madila, who we have interacted on other engagements, and I'm happy to see you today that we're talking about building skills for our country. Let me also recognize the Honorable Dr. Ita Kanji-Murangi, our Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, as well as the Deputy Minister of Information and Communication Technology, and also the Chairperson of the Board of NAMPA in their absence, but also well represented by a board member in the name of Betha Makali. Let me also recognize peers and captains of the various industry. I'm not going to name each one of you tonight, but recognize each of your valuable presence, and of course, the media. I stand today to tell you more about the oil and gas industry in Namibia. There have been talks during the presentation about an emerging oil and gas industry. I just want to share with you a little bit more about what the industry is about. I have a few slides. I'll talk a bit about what the Petro Fund is all about. I'll be very brief. I'll also comment on the status of the oil and gas industry in Namibia. I'll comment on some of the interventions that we have been managing as a fund. And lastly, I'll comment on the subject for tonight, which is what are the training opportunities that are available in the oil and gas industry. Very briefly, Petro Fund is a statutory body of our government. Take note, Mr. Wise, that there are many other bodies that the government has put together to support our economy, and Petro Fund is one of them. It was established in 1992. Thank you very much. I've had the pleasure of being given the ability to use some artificial intelligence here, and I'll use it wisely. That's the outline of the presentation. I'll skip that very quickly. Now, our mandate is to ensure that the oil and gas industry has the relevant skills. So we are a stakeholder of both the Ministry of Mines and Energy as well as the Ministries of Education. We were established in 1992, long before there were discoveries of oil and gas in Namibia. Our vision is to ensure that we have the necessary capacity. I'll skip that very quickly. Let me go to the details that will entice your attention. Just want to comment a little bit on the discoveries of oil and gas in Namibia. We are happy, and this is public knowledge, that after many years of searching for oil and gas, first discoveries were in 1974, and they were deemed stranded under what is called the Kudu gas project, and for various reasons. But now we're happy to report that at this stage there are about 9 discoveries, because the work is still going on. Exploration work and appraisal work is still going on, but we can comment that Kudu gas by BW Energy. We also have 4 discoveries by Shell, Graf, Lesedi, Larona, and my eyes are very poor, I hope you can see there, and Yonka. And we also have discoveries by Total Energies, massive discoveries in the name of the Venus well. And lastly, as of Q1 of this year, Gulp as well announced discoveries. So the landscape in Namibia is truly very exciting and, for the lack of a better word, disruptive to the economy, meaning that we need to do what is possible to get ready for these discoveries. I'll move on. We are, as I have mentioned, a regulated body of the government. The key statutory instrument where the Petrofund finds its mandate is the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act of 1991, particularly Section 14. The government is also, at the moment, drafting a local content policy. I'll not go through each one of them. They are for you to read in the interest of time. Let me move to what I would like to also highlight, which is important because it's going to ensure that as Namibians, we participate in the oil and gas industry through the legislation abilities of our government. The local content policy, which is in draft, and we are all welcome to comment into it, has about 7 objectives. Because it's a draft, the objectives may change as we panel beat the policy. But in a nutshell, we expect it to provide clear guidelines on how we can participate in the oil and gas industry. We expect it to provide guidelines on the maximization of upskilling, training, and the employment of ourselves, the Namibians. We expect it to provide guidelines on the transfer of technology and knowledge in terms of the oil and gas industry. We expect it to facilitate research and development. We expect it to facilitate that local institutions are capacitated. We expect it to facilitate that there's participation in the full value chain of the oil and gas industry. And lastly, we expect it to provide some guidelines on how funding will be sourced to support the oil and gas industry. Again, the policy is in draft. I encourage you to get a copy and read, and if you have comments into it, you're welcome to do so. Let me briefly touch on the work that the Petrofund has been doing over the years. We have been running somewhat about 7 programs. One program that we are known of in the industry is our very successful scholarship program. You will meet occasionally in our industry many Namibians that have been trained by our fund who have become captains of our own industry. One such, if I may be allowed, is the last speaker, Mr. Kalenga. He's a proud product of the fund. We also have, ladies and gentlemen, a STEM secondary school scholarship program. This program is a deliberate intervention for us to stimulate participation of our neglected Namibians in the oil and gas sector. We have an internship program that we fully fund. We also have various interventions that we have also initiated so that we collaborate with partners. We also, upon discoveries of oil and gas, we deemed it necessary to attempt to understand what is the skills landscape in Namibia. What do we have as skills? Because we tend to always say there are no skills, but you've got to go out there and do a research and understand what the market is telling you. And oh boy, the market did not disappoint. I'll just go quickly to that slide and I'll come back to it. The market did not disappoint. We have a lot of Namibians that have necessary competences. We ran this request for skills in a period of 4 weeks, and we collected in excess of 8,400 CVs. We also processed the data further. You can see that the data does not lie. We do have quite a lot of Namibians that are competent. What is important for us is to upskill, to make sure that they are given necessary training for them to participate in whatever sector, in this case, the oil and gas industry. I'll just go back here. I'd like to share with you key statistics. Ever since the fund was established, we are proud to report that we have 368 Namibians, and these are graduates. We've offered more scholarships than what you are seeing, but these are actual numbers of those that are active in our economy. There are 368 of them. We're also happy to report that we will have, by the end of this year, 74 students on our scholarship program. I'll move on. Now, today's discussion is numbers, it's budgets. That's what we are all here for. And Mr. Matengu stimulated a discussion of what does the budget do. I also want to, at this point, advise that we are not directly funded by the fiscus. However, one other intervention that the government can use as an instrument to steer development is legislation. So we are a product of legislation. All companies that are granted licenses to explore for hydrocarbons in our country are compelled by law to make a contribution to the government, and it comes directly to us, and our mandate is to manage the funds. So we are not an institution that will go to the government and seek financial support. We stand on our own. So I'm happy to report that in this budget, we are going to support 34 students continuing on our scholarship program. We intend to offer new scholarships, 40 of them, and then to respond to the emerging oil and gas industry, we are going to also roll out a program to upskill our current welders, and you saw the database, 30 of them, so that they acquire necessary oil and gas certification. Our total budget that we have set aside is 34.9 million. Just want to check you to just also give you a bit of snapshot of the skills that we have as in the pipeline. These records are currently what we have on our database. I'll not go into too much of details. Just want to comment that we've had a long-standing collaboration with the two local institutions of education, UNAM and NAST. Most of the graduates that you see are products of these two institutions. So we're very proud of the work that you do. We will still offer, and these are new offerings, MSc Petroleum Specialization Scholarships, Oil and Gas TVET Scholarships, and of course the one that I mentioned, which is welders, and we will emphasize on fabrication. If I may move on, and if I just go back briefly, this will bring the total of the scholarships on our program. There will be in excess of 100. Now, we also have some programs that we run where we collaborate with stakeholders. One such that I want to mention is one of the big service companies operating in the space has an MOU with ourselves, and in collaboration with the University of Namibia, they will be donating drilling geoscience technology that will enable us to train drillers, our own Namibians, in drilling technology. And we are excited about this, and the collaborating institutions are the University of Namibia, the Ministry of Mines and Energy, and the National Oil Company, and of course ourselves. We're also happy to report that we will run a program where we will train specific government officials, key stakeholders, and provide them with the relevant knowledge in servicing the oil and gas industry. We also want to improve the oil and gas CVs database. We want to introduce some AI there. We want to make sure that you should be able to deposit a CV at any time, and when operators are looking for Namibians to hire, that will be a port of call. And for this, we have signed a couple of MOUs. I can just give you a snapshot there: Subsea 7, Baker Hughes, Technip, FNC, and of course, Halliburton. I'm close to concluding. Just want to touch on the fact that the situation on skills is not really gloom. As you can see, our database is telling us that we have a lot of Namibians that are willing, available, and they have some skill. Our responsibility is to upskill. We've got a short window. The discoveries of oil and gas, as I mentioned, started in 2022. At the moment, the operators that have made discoveries, they're a bit busy with appraisal. So we have a short window to make sure that we upskill, retrain, and ensure that our Namibians get opportunities. I'll not go into the whole list, and let me touch on my concluding remarks. My concluding remarks tonight are that it's very important as stakeholders, and I thank NAMPA for that, that we need to collaborate. We need to take time to appreciate what knowledge is out there, what best practices are out there, for us not to reinvent the wheel. I also want to emphasize the call made by other stakeholders here that funding will be key. We need to be deliberate and ramp up funding to support institutions so that they can respond to the emerging oil and gas industry. We also need to collaborate. There's no need for us to operate in silos. If we have interventions to train where we can co-fund, let's do so jointly together. In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, we do have an oil and gas industry in Namibia. It's just at the point where all of us as stakeholders are able to do something about it in terms of making sure that we are ready from an employment perspective, but also from us participating as business personnel. I end my speech here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's please give her another round of applause. Right, Honourable Prime Minister, we often hear that we have no skills. Madam Mulemi is here with the gospel this evening that is factually untrue. We do have the skills, but we need to upskill, we need to reskill, and we are in a race against time. And we do need financial resources from the budget to accomplish those goals. Is that the correct inference, Madam?
To some extent, yes.
Very well. We have time for half a contribution from a stakeholder from industry. Madam Julia, Madam Beverly, right there at the television screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mulemi, for the excellent presentation. I think my question is around the demand and supply of skills. So the biggest elephant in the room is not the supply, it is the demand. And we see 8,000 CVs, we see a supply of 11,000 students or graduates per annum that is being supplied in the market. And how do we create a smart, inclusive economic growth model where we have a demand for skills, where we as a country identify an oversupply of skills to ensure that we position ourselves competitively in terms of international trade, in terms of many other global platforms. I thank you. My name is Julia Mwetedana. I'm from NIPDP, and I love the topic of skills and also the supply and demand thereof. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And I'll lean on what the university put before us, that skills should follow the developments of the oil and gas, of the industry. If skills do not react to what is going on in a sector, you will create a force oversupply because you trained for a non-existent industry. However, it's somewhat of a catch-22. And I said that we've been training for skills in Namibia, yet there was no oil and gas industry. So to answer your question, really, we would like to encourage that there are collaborations between training institutions as well as the industry so that there's an understanding of the developments taking place in any industry and gives time to the academic institutions to react. At the same time, we should not wait until there is an industry and then you start reacting. What would happen is you attract experts, and once you have experts in an ecosystem, it's very difficult to have them, ask them to move away. So we need to make sure that engagements of this nature, we encourage that they take place because they are platforms where information can be shared and, of course, smart solutions are created.
Please give her another round of applause. Thank you, Madam Mulemi. By a show of hands, who is not awake? By a show of hands, who is not awake? Certainly, if you're asleep, you're unable to hear the question. Right, Honourable Prime Minister, to ensure that every single person on the premises is awake, we've invited Letitia for a short performance with your indulgence before we listen to you, if that is in order. Madam Letitia has been endorsed by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia. So let's please put our hands together for Letitia.
I hope someday I'll be a better me. And what I can achieve, just hoping and honestly, I hope someday I'll be a better me. And what I can achieve, just hoping and honestly, I wanna be strict. I wanna know myself so I can predict what I'm gonna do. Why later, why so soon? Oh, I wanna be mysterious, and I don't wanna take life so serious. I wanna enjoy my time. I hope everyone is enjoying their time. Alone, that would be fine. I hope someday I'll be a better me. open and honestly. So I'll sit under stars and contemplate how I've come so far. I like to be who I can be, and who I'm meant to be. I've been cutting off some people. They might not seem evil, but they have excuses, and I cannot do this anymore. I'm flying high, but some are still on the floor. I hope someday I'll be a better me, right? And what we can achieve, ooh, just open and honestly. Oh, I hope someday, someday, someday we'll be better, me and you. And what we can achieve, just open and honestly. I hope someday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. That was my own song. It's titled I Hope Someday. It's not out yet, but yeah, thank you.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister, we would be doing a disservice to Namibia and a nation if we do not prioritize the arts. Oil and gas and green hydrogen mean nothing without the arts. Let's please give Madame Letitia another round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, captains of industry, to the extent to which you are able, I'd like to invite you to please rise. For the Right Honourable Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Dr. Sarah Coengelwa-Amadila, for the keynote address.
Please take your seats. Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Okay. The Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, the Deputy Minister of Information and Communication Technology, stakeholders, may I stand on the protocol already established? You know, I was thinking of what to say about the song of Letitia. You are wonderful. But you almost made me cry when you said, "Stand by me." Looking at how young you are and looking at the theme of this evening's discussion, I think we all agree we have to tell Letitia and her generation, we will stand by them. Good evening to you all. I am honored to represent President Nangolo Mbumba at this occasion and to deliver the keynote address on his behalf. At the onset, I wish to thank the organizers of this event for the initiative to bring together stakeholders to deliberate on the important aspect of high-level tertiary education funding. Our recently departed President, Dr. Hage Geingob, championed under the Harambee Prosperity Plan investment into education as one of the topmost priorities as we strive towards Vision 2030. Harambee Prosperity Plan strives for improved access to quality education and sports through improved and expanded education infrastructure and improved quality of higher education and technical and vocational education and training. Education is a very important aspect for any nation's development, because through education, knowledge is imparted to the citizenry, and it prepares them to undertake various professions. As such, education is a public good which every member of society requires for professional advancement and career growth. This is true with the adage that education is the key to success. Given its intrinsic value, education cannot be excluded from or denied to any person, nor can it be argued that those that cannot afford it must not get or access it. Therefore, I'm also struggling here with technology. Therefore, the best gift that any nation can give to its youth especially is quality education. And quality education that responds to the skills needs of the society. And we have heard you, Professor Matengu, when you said that we need to provide more funding to education. We have prioritized education under our budget, and we try to allocate as much resources as we can afford, but we acknowledge that there is still a gap. And I always say that education is where our mouth is, and that is where we should put our money, our food. We can own all the mines, we can own all the oil fields, but if we had no skilled manpower, we cannot even find where the oil is and where the minerals is. And if you ask me, I actually find it interesting that all of a sudden we have all of these oil findings. I'm wondering whether we are finding them only now, or whether it has not always been known that they are there, but because we have no ability to discover the oil, and we have no ability to pump it, and we have no ability to process it, it has to be found at the right time of those that have the ability to find it, to pump it, and to process it. That is how important education is. Now, my statement is a little bit long. I don't know whether I should go through it, but I thought that maybe I should focus on two things. First, because we acknowledge that we don't have all the resources to provide the level of funding that is required by the education sector, we should incentivize the public to come on board. And we are doing this in two ways. First, we are pursuing the public-private partnership to encourage especially the institutional savers, but also private sector and individuals. And I'm happy to hear that there are private people that have invested in education. And that's why we have those private training institutions. And that's why the government has decided that NAFSA should review the funding policy so that those institutions that can provide quality training in areas of need, strategic need, can be incentivized to continue to do so. But we also want to encourage those that want to do so in partnership with government through what we call public-private partnership to come on board. So the government has directed the relevant stakeholders in government to ensure that within a defined time frame, we operationalize modalities for implementing public-private partnership so that we can use the investments that we are making in education as a government to catalyze private sector investment and also their management skills to actually investing in education, ensuring that we broaden access to quality education for not only our young people, but to every Namibian that want to advance their studies. Another thing that we are investing in is technology. The professor and others in the IT sector have talked eloquently about that. So I will not go into the detail of that because we all know that there was a commission that was established by the late president to suggest to us ways that we can leverage on digitalization to optimize development in the country. They have come up with an action plan that has been approved by the government. And what remains now really is for us to work in partnership between the government and the private sector to give effect to the implementation of what has been agreed under that action plan. Within government itself, we have come up with an action plan also for automating government services, as we call it. And the COVID has shown us that it is a basic necessity to digitalize, because we were able to provide critical services online. But also, as a small population that is spread across a big space that is our country, we have been reminded of the fact that it's very costly to provide services to everyone wherever they are in the country. So we have started to digitalize had started already by the time that COVID came, because we need to be closer to the people. We need to offer convenience so that busy as we may be, we will be able to settle our bills on Saturdays anytime, you know, without having to be constrained to working hours, and in the comfort of our homes. But we think that digitalization, especially in the public sector, is important also for promoting good governance, because you don't need to know the person that is dealing with your file. You know, you just go to the computer. You don't have to be asked to pay anything to anyone to make your bill smaller. You know what I mean? So you go, you calculate your tax, it tells you how much you owe, you pay, it offers you a receipt in a convenience of your home. So that is also another importance of digitalization. And we are happy to hear that the tertiary sector and the private sector, the broad stakeholdership is prepared to come on board to make sure that we pool our resources and our creativities together to ensuring that we become an educated nation, so that we can leverage on the resources that our country is endowed with to advance development. And now I have talked about what the government is doing to try and incentivize private sector, especially to invest in education. We had announced already that we would offer tax incentives to entities that, besides the training expenses that will be deductible, is already deductible for tax purposes, to also deduct their expenses related to internship. And more recently, Cabinet also decided that even those that may not have the capacity to take interns on board, but are prepared to make donations to facilitate for interns to be deployed in institutions where this is possible, those can also have their donations deducted for tax purposes. The parents who may not be able to buy education policies can also have their education expenses for their children, or a destitute child that you assist to meet their educational expenses, tax deducted. And the students that will be supported by NAFSAF would also be able to, when they repay their loans, have those expenses also deducted for tax purposes. So these are all efforts intended to incentivize all of us to make a contribution. Of course, as a public good, it means that we as corporates especially, who need skilled manpower to compete, especially in a more globalized world. We have now committed ourselves to open our borders under the African Free Trade Agreement, in addition to the new industries that are coming up as a result of the discoveries in green hydrogen and oil. We need to ensure that we invest our money into education and training. It is not a favor we are doing to the person we are sponsoring. We are ensuring that we have a productive labor that would ensure that we can compete with the others that would come here from abroad. So we already know what the budget is providing, so I would not really bore you with the details of what we are providing under the budget, but I just wanted to highlight those new initiatives that the government has adopted. And I am looking forward to a more robust partnership between the government, the private sector, and others in the non-public sector to ensure that we put our money where our mouth is, and we educate our young ones, and we implore our young ones also, when they have acquired the skills, to invest their knowledge in this country, Because the countries that we are going to, the countries that are offering better remuneration packages, were able to do that because they were people who were prepared to sacrifice and work for a small package in order to create the prosperity that enabled them now to remunerate the labor of their experts commensurately. So please be amongst the volunteers. We will stand by you, the young ones, but also be prepared to stand by the next generation, by volunteering, by making sure that we make Namibia what it can possibly be, because God has given us everything that we need and what others wish they had. And if we all can hold our hands and work together, then Namibia can be a paradise. In fact, somebody once said, poverty has no business in Namibia. And I agree with that person. So really, in concluding, not to keep you away from your dinner, I just want to thank our host for organizing this event. I want to thank all of you for coming here. I want to thank those of you that have shared your insights. I want to thank those of you that have ventured into the education and training sector and research, and to urge you to continue to do that, and hoping that next time we meet, we'll be talking about greater successes than what we have realized so far. Thank you very much.
Let's please give our Prime Minister another massive round of applause. Right, Honourable Prime Minister, you shared with us that Letitia almost made you emotional earlier, but I think your conclusion almost dealt with the lump in our throats that we have been having for the last 5 to 6 weeks. You may or may not know that the Right Honourable Prime Minister is the authority on national budgets. What you may recall is that she's a former Minister of Finance. What you may not know, many are of the view that the land of the brave has never seen a budget surplus in independent Namibia. One key feature of the tenure of the Prime Minister as the Minister of Finance is that during her tenure, this country witnessed, independent Namibia, a budget surplus. That in isolation already deserves a massive round of applause. There should be overarching and overwhelming consensus that indeed poverty, that phenomenon called poverty, has absolutely zero business in Namibia. Can we commit to that? Let's give ourselves a massive round of applause. We're here to hold space for one another. We're here to hold hands across generations. And the plea, the call to the younger generation, the Letitias of the world, please continue paying it forward. And entities here represented or not, you're not doing anyone a favor by sponsoring their studies. You are taking up the responsibility to ensure that Namibia becomes competitive. Is that well understood? To thank all of you for your presence, for your commitment, for your relentlessness and for your tenacity. Notwithstanding the trouble that might exist on the domestic front, you've stayed put right up until this moment. I would like to invite us to please put our hands together for the Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Press Agency, Mr. Linus Chata.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, for the platform. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, Deputy Minister for MICT. I'm trying to eliminate some of the words in the interest of time. The hour is late, and therefore allow me to stand by the protocol that has been ably established by the previous speakers. My assignment this evening is a simple one, but a very important one also. That's to thank you all for gracing this important gathering on the subject that we have prosecuted for the last couple of hours. Right Honorable Prime Minister, thank you for spending this evening with us amidst your busy schedule. I thank you very much for dedicating your time in the manner and the length you have done. I think we all agree. I had an advantage of looking at the longer version of the Prime Minister's statement. We all agree when the Prime Minister said that these emerging technologies that we have been talking about this evening have a potential to the Namibian economy and as well present opportunities and responsibilities on all of us. Potential for growth and development, but also places upon each one of us responsibilities. That is very important. And therefore, without repeating the words of the previous speakers, we have the honors to rethink, to relearn, and research more and more. I also want to extend my word of gratitude to Honorable Dr. Ita Kanji Morangi for the confidence that your institution and your staff have placed in NAMPA to partner in this very important venture. NAMPA is least known for events of this nature. But when we engaged the Honorable Minister that we have this idea, she did not hesitate to say, let us go for it. It is the first of this kind, and we are grateful for opening the space for us to do more of this in the future. To the panel of experts that have made valuable interventions this evening, I can only say, wow, what knowledge, what depth, what a challenge you have given us to think and think about how powerful these new developments, are in our lives. We all have a piece of something to benefit from this. And we also have a piece of something to contribute to that. And for that, I thank you very sincerely for challenging our thoughts this evening. To our esteemed sponsors, we are extremely grateful for your generous support. Without your support, this event would not have been possible. In Africa, we believe that an event is worth its name if there's music, if there's decor, if there's food. And the sponsors allowed us that opportunity to have those elements. And therefore, indeed, this is a real African event. And for that, we thank you for your generosity. We also want to extend our gratitude to the Master of Ceremony. Denver has the talent of making this business of facilitating discussions look like it's an easy business. It just comes out naturally, and he makes the job easy. But I tell you, it's not easy. And therefore, thank you for making it this way. And to everyone present in this pavilion, and of course to those that are following the event through our live stream, I really want to thank you for the time and for the interest you have shown in this event. And before I sit down, see the danger of being the last speaker, especially at an hour like this. If you speak longer than necessary, you are blamed for delaying people's dinner. I'm very much aware of that, so I have only 1 or 2 lines to say. So before I sit, let me state that this event is the first of many similar engagements NAMPA will be hosting going forward. We plan to give exposure to a wide range of sectors of our economy and of our society. NAMPA, just as an example, has a media institute that is going to launch, again, for the first time this year, a training program of the media professionals to help them cover better the emerging sectors in oil and gas. Kind of a specialized training. New in the field, we want to move in tandem with time. We have the facilities, we have the capacity and capabilities in terms of human resource, so we are ready to launch so that we move with the time we find ourselves in. NAMPA, your very own news agency. I want to emphasize that phrase. NAMPA is your news agency. We are not, sorry for the lack of a better word, we are not a tabloid. We are not into sensational information and whatever, no. We are into real serious business. Business of connecting corporates with the market, here and beyond. Business of communicating and sharing government events and information. Big information, NAMPA has developed, for big information, NAMPA has developed capabilities to live stream instantaneously as things are happening so that no Namibian is left out. So with the aid of technology, we are able to connect communities and we are able to communicate the government information. Last but not least, let me extend a word of gratitude to the NAMPA team. Thank you for making this event happen. When we conceptualized it, it looked like it is, let me use my grandson's language, it looked like it's huger than our capacity. But I think we have delivered. And it goes to prove that together we can tell the Namibian story better. Let us do more. Thank you.
It may not be customary to thank the person responsible for the vote of thanks, but Mr. Charter did such a sterling job of it that he certainly deserves a massive round of applause. Few things are very clear. Certainly, in your grandchild's language, the assignment was not huger than you had capacity for. I think tonight was not only transformative, but certainly revolutionary, and NAMPA will never ever be the same again. Let's please give NAMPA and all the team members a massive round of applause. Many team members who may not have slept a single hour over the last couple of days may not have the opportunity to be at the podium, but their commitment, their dedication, their relentlessness, their tenacity, all of that contributed to the resounding success that tonight was. We know dinner is ready. We have it in very good authority. Just 2 announcements. One is the sport of running. Right Honorable Prime Minister teaches us that if it's not documented, it didn't happen. I'd like to invite the high table and all speakers to please, if you will, line up right here. The photographer is ready for us to document the occasion. else I'm told it didn't happen. Number two, with the indulgence of the rest of us, if we could just hold on a little bit so that once the picture has been taken, that the high table also serves dinner first. I'm sure we'll be okay and we will not perish until that moment. Number three, we do know that you needed to make arrangements and you need documented evidence. We'll have to lodge an additional application to hear whether the Prime Minister is available for that selfie that you need to send to your partner to prove that you are indeed here. Let me know whether those arrangements need to be made as a matter of urgency. Number five, is it six? We are going to network. Remember I told you that there are some speakers whom you may not have had the courage in that moment to engage, but they are not allowed to leave the premises without being engaged. We've also informed the authorities, I'm talking about law enforcement, both the Namibian police and city police. We're allowed to be here until 3 o'clock. I have to get ready for work at 4, so I'll be then excused at about 3:30. But we will not be arrested. Everything is in order. My name is Denver Kisting. Bye-bye.
Mama, tell me, girl, you have to go to school and become a success.